Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where SaaS founders are tasked with creating a pitch deck using only predictive tech suggestions from their smartphones. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you profitably scale from 7 figures, which is good, to 8 and 9 figures, which is amazingly great. We use a proven process to create premium valuation, capital efficient growth, and freedom so that you build a business that you're proud of and create a life of impact that you love. I read a book over the last weekend called Anti-Fragile. It's about having an anti-fragile mindset. You know, the things we think about as super stable, like the economy, currency, health, safety, they're actually quite fragile. You know, a single bank failure may domino others. You know, someone crosses over a line on a highway and the world is forever changed because it's fragile. You know, have you ever mailed something glass, write fragile on the box, because fragile things break under pressure, too much turmoil, shock. And you think, well, the opposite of fragile would be durability, and that's good. But anti-fragile is a step beyond durable. Anti-fragile things benefit from shock, volatility, and pressure. They get better. The example the author uses is the mythical figure from Greek mythology, the Hydra. It cut off one head and it grows 2 more. Or how about muscles? Think about that. When you work out, muscles break down, but then they build back stronger. It's that turmoil makes them stronger. Our mindset can be the same way. One thing goes wrong and we can be done. We can be offended. We can give up. We can take one bad comment and make it run our day or week. A little shock can stall progress. That's fragile. An anti-fragile mindset overreacts in the other way, where all those things may be an overreaction in a negative way to that stress or that turmoil or that obstacle. We want to overreact the other way. We put more energy, more thought, more resolve to get past that setback. That extra oomph creates innovation and progress. And when we face obstacles, the anti-fragile, we get better. So think about, like a giant boulder in our way, and maybe we can't go through it, can't go over it, can't go around it, can't go, what do? I'll go under it. I will blow it up. I'll carve right through it. I'll tunnel through the mountain instead of the boulder. I'll make a new path through the forest. It's really kind of creating those options. And, I think that anti-fragile mindset is even more important skill now than probably it has been in many years. I mean, the idea of becoming stronger through adversity, and those who have it or develop it will be super, super successful. And those who don't, I think honestly will be flushed out of the market. And when the economy is great, you can be sloppy and succeed. When interest rates are low and money flows, you can be undisciplined financially. The crazy thing is that easier isn't better. We all would like, man, if entrepreneurial journey could just be easier, right? But, a road with no obstacles doesn't lead to success. Calm seas don't make a great captain. Calm and tranquility create fragility. The concept of becoming anti-fragile reminded me of a quote from another book. It's a science fiction book, not a business book, in a post-apocalyptic world. It's called Those Who Remain. And the quote was, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And I'll just paraphrase that a little bit. I could say strong leaders create good economies. Good economies create weak leaders or weak people. Weak people create economic hardship, and hardship forges great leaders. So think about that as you go through, and be grateful when the entrepreneurial journey is hard. Use that like building a muscle. It breaks down what is weak to make the entire thing stronger. When you face obstacles, create variation. Use those obstacles to creatively solve problems and create options. This week, think about ways to develop an anti-fragile mindset and how obstacles actually make you stronger as you solve them and find a way through. Today's episode is sponsored by the book Small Fish, Big Pond, Building a World-Class Business That Swims Circles Around Competitors. So why do some SaaS companies achieve explosive growth while others sink into the depths? Why do some solutions inspire fierce brand loyalty while others are just interchangeable? And what can we as SaaS leaders learn from fish? Small Fish, Big Pond delivers powerful marketing and leadership lessons guaranteed to enhance your marketing message, wrap value around clients, and guide their buying journey to conclude that your company is the only solution for them. It includes step-by-step frameworks and time-tested growth tools to attract ideal clients, convert them, and transform them into your brand ambassadors. Pick up the print, ebook, or audio today at smallfishbigpond.com or at your favorite bookstores, wherever that may be. Our last guest was Richard Palleria, co-founder of Kermit. Kermit's a Baltimore-based SaaS and analytics platform that delivers cost reduction and spend management for hospitals and health systems in the high-spend category of implantable medical devices. Great insights from a SaaS founder with years of experience leading companies from small to large. And our expert guest last Thursday was Vladimir Blagojevich, founder of FullFunnel.io. Vlad works with B2B tech brands to drive awareness and demand for their products and land six-figure enterprise deals with their ideal target accounts. So if you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. My guest this week is Michael Bertoni, founder and CEO of PhillyTech, which is now called SaaS Talent. Michael is on a mission to be the number one resource to help SaaS and high-tech companies with hiring and growth. He's the most connected technologist on LinkedIn, over 22,000 LinkedIn first connections. And, I think of him as just a people connector. Michael is an expert in hiring, recruiting for SaaS and high-tech companies. In fact, he's helped place over 1,000 people into those types of companies, making over $50 million in impact. So a guy who is all about hiring, recruiting, and growth solutions. Welcome someone who builds amazing teams and makes current teams excel. Michael Bertoni. Hey, Michael, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, it's great to be here. Appreciate you inviting me. Really do. Thank you so much.
Of course. Tell me a little bit about PhillyTech and how you came up with the idea.
Yeah, so PhillyTech, we're going into our 8th year. And so I'm a Philly guy. I've lived here since 2004. And
I'm a Dallas guy, but I won't hold that against you.
All right, Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to take you down this year. We'll see. But I came up with the idea basically because I live in Philly. I'm a Philly guy, Philly proud. And I've been involved in the tech community, in the SaaS and high-tech community, probably since about 2006. And I've always focused in on working with software companies, SaaS companies, and high-tech companies. So I thought at the time that PhillyTech was a great name, and now my team is saying that, Mike, you want to go national, you're going to have to maybe do a name change. But at the time, I was thinking Philly. I was thinking the Philly region for the hiring services and the recruiting services that we do.
That makes sense. And so as you expand out nationally, you're even doing some international and Latin America now too.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So we're one of the only companies that I'm aware of. Our firm, again, is focused in hiring. So we focus in full-time hiring and staff augmentation for SaaS and high-tech companies. And we do it locally, we do it nationally, and we do it in Latin America. So I've built up a team in Latin America right now. I have, about 21 people. And it's really exciting. I mean, being able to grow in Latin America, being able to get down there, the culture down there is unbelievable. The energy is really, really great in terms of working with them. So it's a great combination of local, US, and Latin America.
So what kind of talent are you specifically staffing for, or is it across the board?
Yeah, so many times within the SaaS market and high-tech market, we start with engineers and developers. So we're doing across the board in terms of engineering and development, C#, .NET, Node.js are two of the biggest platforms. Actually, I have a bunch of Ruby on Rails clients, React, right? You name it, we're doing it in terms of engineering and development. But it kind of more comes down to Node and C Sharp, like a lot of Node shops, a lot of C Sharp shops on the back end. So those are the areas of focus.
Oh, that's good. So how do you go about identifying great candidates for the clients? How do you know there's going to be a fantastic match there?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we work with a client, we're really, really focused in something that I call hyper targeting. So it's something that I developed from my days in sales and lead generation. So before I started PhillyTech, I was in sales and business development. I was an executive. I had a team. And I was always very, very big on lead generation and filling your pipeline with great opportunities. So I basically turned that love of sales and lead generation into a recruiting company. So we have a process that we've built called hyper targeting. And what it all really starts with is when we work with a client, we really start by building their exact candidate profile. So usually that consists of about 15 to 20 points, things they're exactly looking for in a candidate, right? All the normal things like obviously C Sharp, say it's a C Sharp engineer and you need to find, someone with 5+ years experience. And that's a lot of times that's where companies stop. We take it so much further into their LinkedIn profile, having a GitHub, having specific experience with specific terms and terminology. So just like in sales, when you have to understand what your exact target is to sell to, we build an exact candidate profile, and we work with the client on that. And then from there, it's a series of steps. It starts there. Then we build a job requirement. So we have a job requirement framework that we built that gets people interested and excited about your company. And then from there, we're targeting. We're hyper targeting people. So my team of recruiters, we're getting into LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the primary place where we find people. And we're targeting people one after another, just like an SDR or someone in inside sales would do. And it's really the best way to get great candidates right now.
That's what you find passive candidates that way as well.
Exactly.
And not just searching the job boards. I mean, I think that's kind of the perception from the outside. And what honestly a lot of the companies do is they just go out and do the same thing that companies could do. And there's some value in that. But your approach is significantly differentiated from that.
Significantly differentiated. I mean, all you have to think about a lead generating marketing person who targets people individually. So we do all the above. We will post job to 25, 30 different job boards.
Sure.
We have our network. But time and time again, you are looking for candidates. A client is looking for candidates who are working, right? People who are working are not looking at your job.
Right.
And so we're trying to find people that are passively thinking about, or maybe they just entered the job market, but we're trying to identify that candidate that is passively looking. Those are the best candidates that are just excited to work at a SaaS company or a health tech company. And we're able to identify them and pick them right off of LinkedIn and hyper target them with great messaging, a great job requirement. And many times you got to sell them on what's so great about your company as well. So you got to sell them on the opportunity because candidates these days it's a candidate market. They have all the opportunities they want in the world. They could work wherever they want.
Sure.
So we take a different approach. And again, it's the approach of like the way a SDR or inside salesperson or a lead generation. So we think of it as leads that we're generating leads.
So do you use the similar type approach where you're really selling the story of the company and here's why you want to go and get them excited about that?
Exactly. I mean, take for an example, like your company, right? So your company has a story. It has a unique story. A lot of times in health tech and in SaaS, it's exciting. You're improving the outcomes of patients, or you're improving outcomes.
Right.
One of our clients actually improves the lives of infants. So they have a feeding management platform for infants in their first 1,000 days of life. I mean, so
Wow.
we tell a story around, you're able to build great software, great technology. You're able to make a difference. Your software that you build is being sold. It's a completely different mindset. So most of the engineers and developers that are out there, they're not working for SaaS companies, right? They might understand a little bit about a SaaS company, but they're not working there. So we get people excited about the company, the opportunity, just the industry in general. And it's a big differentiator. So think of a candidate experience, right? So many times you want to improve the client experience. That is so important. So I want to improve the client experience.
Right.
So we are out to create an unbelievable candidate experience. And when you think about that mindset of a candidate experience and making everything about their experience unbelievable, typically what they say to us is, geez, I've never worked with a company like yours before. This is unbelievable, right? I have people calling me up after they got the job and they're like, this is the best job I've ever had. And it's because we're living and breathing this whole SaaS mentality and lifestyle. Our clients are all SaaS.
It's a good place to be. It's a fantastic market. I love it.
Absolutely.
What makes that candidate experience so good? What does a great candidate experience look like?
Yeah. So when we're messaging them and reaching out to them, so we're messaging them individually on LinkedIn. So we're sending connect messages out. We're sending emails. So from the first touch that we're reaching out to them, it's all around, do you want to make a difference? Do you want a better opportunity for your career? Right? We're playing on the psychology of the person, and we're many times picking people out of places, and they say to us, I was thinking about this market. I was thinking about this opportunity, and then your message came in. Just like a lead back in the good old days when we were all sales guys or gals. You hit me just the right time. Right? We're finding that person.
Right.
So then when we set up the interview experience is different. Most people that get interviewed, the first thing that people are asking them are bits and bytes. We're telling them first we're explaining who PhillyTech is, and we're telling them how excited we are to talk to them and what we do. And then we're giving about a 3-minute introduction to your company. And we're telling them how exciting this opportunity is, how this company is changing lives of their patients, or they're trying to reinvent a marketplace or something like that. And basically nobody hears that in the beginning. So they're like, wow, this is really cool. And then we've already done a great job of targeting them and screening their resume. So we can do that, right? So if we're targeting them the right way and we're screening them, we have to sell them on why they should come talk to this company in many cases, right? So it starts out with a different way, and then obviously from there we screen them technically and for communication and all the above and all those things. And then when they get prepared for an interview, so I've had a framework that I've used to prepare people for interviews that I've used for about 20 years. That I explain to them, because most people, engineers especially, they're very analytical, so they understand. Well, let me give you a quick framework for an interview. And all interviews happen the same way. So what you have to do is when you review the job requirement, so your preparatory work is reviewing the job requirement in detail, reviewing their company website. Then the next thing is review the person that's interviewing you, review their LinkedIn. Many people don't do that. Like many people won't review your LinkedIn profile before they interview, but they should if they, and then I ask them to do a thought experiment. It's really simple. Every interview happens the same exact way. What do you think the person's going to ask you? What are the 5 or 10 questions that you think they're going to ask you? You know them, you know yourself, you know your resume, you know the job. What are they going to ask you? And we give them obviously different things that we know the person's going to ask, and then we get them to write down the answers, right? So they're prepared now. Then after they have answered those questions, then you have to have questions, right? So it's a preparatory phase. They're going to ask you questions. You're prepared for them. Then you're going to ask questions. You're going to ask thoughtful questions. I need you. What are your questions? What are you going to ask? Give them some examples. And then what are the next steps? And then when you're talking and you're telling about your experience, most people aren't salespeople. So they don't know how to explain. Like an engineer doesn't know how to talk to you about their experience. So you got to talk about, talk about how it's always the same things, how you helped increase productivity, how you helped reduce costs, how you hoped, so you got to, so now the person's prepared for the interview and the client also is, wow, this is a better experience that I'm having because this person's prepared. I'm not telling them exactly what the person's going to ask. I'm giving them a framework in which to prepare and to handle the interview properly. So then that happens at every interview, right? So then that's the first interview. Then after the interview is completed, then you ask the candidate and you ask the client, how did that go? You get the feedback back as quickly as possible. And then you look to get next steps. And everything just happens very succinctly, there's a great flow to it. And the candidates and the clients all are like, this is just working really well, right? And it's because we're following this systematic approach and method that we've developed over years.
That's a really smart way to do that and have that framework, because you're exactly right. Most candidates don't know how to really present their experience in a way that's coherent, that they really haven't thought through those questions. But really, they're probably, if you prepare for 10 or 12 questions, you're going to find 5 or 6 of those in every interview.
Exactly.
And they may be different, but a lot of them are going to be the same, but they're probably all going to fall inside or close to, a dozen, maybe 15 questions in total.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a very, very simple framework that, they're going to ask me questions. I'm already going to think about what they are. I'm going to write down the answers, and everything's remote now. So it's like you could have your notes right in front of you, and everybody's just better prepared. They have a better experience. So if you're doing an interview with one of our candidates and you see that they have notes and they're like asking questions, you're like, wow, this person's really prepared. And it's just a better.
No, they're taking it serious.
Right. Exactly. So and many people just come back to us and they just say, this was the best experience I've ever had. And I've heard it so many times. And in the beginning, it was like, wow, somebody just said it again. Like every time I personally work with someone, they always say it. But like now it's a matter of me scaling my company. So in the last 2 years, I've grown to about 35 people. So now I can't do everything. So the biggest challenge lately has been training my hiring leads. I have hiring leads I've run on to do what I was doing. And I'm always training them. And, if you have a great business and you've done it, you can get in the weeds and, but you got to let people grow. You got to let people get better.
Right. How do you coach your clients to interview better? What can they do? And thinking about, particularly, listeners, SaaS founders, CEOs, managers, VPs, how can they be better at selecting candidates and interviewing so that they find that right match?
Yeah. I mean, it's a process every time with different clients. Some clients are just generally more picky, more choosy. The important thing to understand when we're doing what we do is we're hyper targeting them, we're screening their resume, and we're interviewing them before we present them to you. So in a lot of cases, we recommend that you still have the right of refusal, right? But we recommend that you interview this person. And yeah, clients need to also understand that if they're talking to a great candidate, they have to do the same job of selling themselves and selling their company. They can't just grind someone because the market is so hard, right? The market is so hard right now. So I have coached many clients on how to interview. First, hey, what do you know about our company? What do you know about us? Let me tell you a little bit about our company, right? Let me tell you how exciting it is to work here. So that aligns with what we do as well, right? In our interview process. So many times they say, yeah, we've heard things from PhillyTech. We understand. Oh, great. That's awesome. And then it's about kind of it's like a relationship. It's like dating. It's like, how do you date? How do you, you're getting married to this person basically. So it is
right.
It is a process, right? I mean, the best interviews again are when you're asking me a question, I kind of have already thought through what you might ask me. So I'm like, I'm presenting my answers, but at the same time, you have to get along. I mean, there just has to be like that. You have to get along with the other person. At the end of the day, it's personalities, and it's hard. It's, personalities when you're working with other people, it's hard. So we try our best to, create that match.
Yeah, having that match is so important. How has hiring changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so big changes in the way of remote, right? So everybody wants to work remotely. So if you are a SaaS company out there, you need to have a remote. You in order to really attract the best talent, you need to have a remote philosophy, like a hybrid remote philosophy. So we can absolutely get you people locally, right? And some of our clients want you in on site for 3, 4, 5 days. As one of our clients wants people on 5 days a week. But what's changed the most is everyone wants to work remotely, right? So when you have a hybrid remote philosophy with the way that the way you have people, you're able to attract more talent. Also, PTOs in SaaS, a flexible PTO policy. So our best SaaS clients have unlimited PTO, which you could look up how that works. But at a high level, you could take PTO whenever you want, as long as you complete your work. And then you just have to get your PTO approved from your manager. So many of the best SaaS companies in the world have an unlimited PTO policy. So that's changed a lot. And then it's really a candidate market, right? Salaries have gone through the roof. So I recall when salaries for seniors in the Philly region were 140, 150,000. Now it's more like 160 to 180 or higher for seniors. So salaries have also gone through the roof. And that's been amazing, because you really have to educate clients many times on those things. So those are 3 things that have really shifted with hiring right now.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Just sticker shock with some of the candidates. If you want somebody really, really good, having to pay up for it.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you see that on a regular basis.
See that all the time.
But I'd love to ask you a little bit more about the hyper targeting methodology, and tell me about that and kind of the steps behind it.
Yeah. So in order for our team to do hyper targeting, we have a series of different steps that we employ with the client and then also our team. So let me get into it here and just explain. So the first thing that we do with the client is we have a kickoff meeting specifically around hyper targeting. Because in order to really get the hiring done properly, hyper targeting we feel is the most important thing to get the right candidates. So we have a kickoff meeting. So that's number one. So during that kickoff meeting, we ask a series of questions in order to get to number two, which is the ideal candidate profile, right? So it's ideal candidate profile, ICP, right? So we look to build, again, what are the things that you are looking for? And it gets real. There's a lot of depth into it. There are usually about 5 things that the client really wants. And then we add about 10 things just based on our experience. So the client might want 7+ years of C#. They might want lead. They need to be a lead. They need to be a team lead. They need to have MBS, right? They need to also have some good front end knowledge, maybe in AngularJS. And then maybe the last thing would be they need it to know APIs. So that's where the client, like many times, okay, that's what I need. And that's many times what a recruiting company will hear and work off of. So then we take it many levels deeper. So the person that we're targeting, their LinkedIn profile has to look a certain way, right? So it actually has to have a banner, right? They also have to have a GitHub. So they have to have a GitHub repository, right? That's another big thing. They have to be in their last job for at least 2 years, right? So at least 2 years.
Okay.
So those are the types of things that, again, in that ideal hiring, that ideal candidate profile that we're looking to build. Then from there, we build a job requirement, right? So we have a job requirement framework that we've built over the last few years, right? So it encompasses your company overview, right? What's exciting about your company? What's exciting about your benefits? What's exciting about your team? And then obviously it gets into the daily, weekly requirements and the technical requirements. So we have a whole framework of how we actually write a job requirement. And so that's number 3. And then from there, we then have email templates and messaging templates that we build. So that would be number 4. So we build these templates and messaging templates that for LinkedIn and for email that we use to target people. Then from there, we target individual people, and each one of my recruiters has to do at least 50 targets a day, and that actually encompasses about 100 because they send 50 individual LinkedIn messages and 50 emails, right? And then once a candidate shows interest, right, then just because they showed interest doesn't mean that. So then they have to send anywhere from 3 to 10 screening questions, like that we've prepared and built, like specifically with the client and based on our experience. So then they answer those questions, right? Then we have to get their resume, right? So they have to send us a resume, and we have to then screen the resume and look at it and make sure it has everything that we're looking for. And then we set up an interview with them. And then from that interview, so when we interview them, we have a specific methodology with which we interview them, right? The way we talk to them, the way we ask them questions, and the way they answer the questions. And then if they pass that, then they get submitted to the client, right? And that kind of ends that ends the hyper targeting process. Now the next process is hire optimization, because now I got to optimize trying to get, say if you're my client If you're my client, Jeff, like it's like now I have to help optimize getting the person hired. So those were the steps involved in the hyper targeting method.
Tell me about hire optimization. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, so when we submit a candidate to you, right? We then have a data process where, say Jeff, say you respond back, you've reviewed the resume, say you do that in a few hours. That's a data point, right? In our agreements, we want you to give us feedback on anything we submit to you within 24 hours, right? So when you review the resume and then you give us times, right? Then we actually have a way that we submit the candidate to you, right? So that's so we submit the client to you in a certain method, right? It's like there's certain things on the email. Then when you give us times for your interview, we have a calendar invite, a specific template for a calendar, just a way a calendar invite looks. And we try to get your times. Like we try to, Jeff, when are you most of the time free to do interviews? Right? Are you free in the afternoons? Are you free in the mornings? When is it better? So you could just tell us, yeah, I'm looking at, that's fine. Set up the interview. And we already know, right? And we already know to set it up at the certain time. So it doesn't waste time. And then when we do the interview, the interview gets set up. We then attend the interview in many cases to learn, right? To learn about, and this is again how we can optimize, right? So hire process optimization is, we just submitted a candidate to you that we think is an A caliber candidate. How do we take that time frame, which, maybe the time frame is a month normally, that you hire somebody in a month, right? We educate the client that, you really got to shorten that time frame. You're going to lose people.
Right. So people won't stay available that long.
Yeah. So we coach them on, we really got to shorten this process. Like, how do we do this? Right? How do we shorten? So it's kind of fanatical, Jeff, to be honest. Like, I kind of drive myself nuts, to be honest. I mean, because I can't do it now because my hiring leads have to do it. But I am like into the minutia, like about like certain things, and it ultimately gets people hired faster. So we submit. I'll give you an example. Last week we submitted candidates, great people, to one of our clients on a Tuesday, and they didn't get back to us. And then I started getting like infuriated. Like, and I'm like inside, not like outside, because my hiring lead has to know what to do. Has to understand what to do. And basically I found out today that the person that was the hiring manager just didn't know, which is unbelievable, just didn't know that, hey, I should be reviewing these resumes right away and responding. And then it was the holidays, obviously. So it's like, it gets down to like just helping the client, right? If we've got a great candidate, how do we get the person through your process the fastest possible? And because it's competitive.
And when it's competitive like that, what have you done to, in addition to making calls and actually reaching out to candidates that are not obviously looking, what are some things that you've done to, bring candidates out and build those relationships so that you have kind of a deep bench and you've built those relationships before you're tapping them for an opportunity?
Yeah. So one of the things that I highly recommend to any SaaS company listening or any person listening is you got to build your community. So we built a meetup. So I have a meetup. It's called the SaaS and High Tech Meetup. I actually made it more national recently. It was called the Philly, right? So now I'm trying to make it more national. So now it's called the SaaS and High Tech Meetup. And basically we're doing networking events. We're presenting jobs. We have speakers. And so we're constantly trying to bring people into this community and give back. So I just did a great meetup the other day and how to get a job in SaaS and high tech. And it was really unbelievable, Jeff. We had 20 people come. I couldn't believe it, from like, a tech boot camp. Like all these people just showed up. They all showed up. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I thought I was going to get like about 15, 20 people, and like 30 people showed up, and 20 of them were from this tech boot camp. And they were all in there like just open ears, like, how do I do this, right? How do I get a job? And it was really cool. It was really cool just educating them on things like how to set up your resume, how to set up your LinkedIn profile, how to network for jobs, right? All those different things just to help them, because many people just don't know how. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to. They're not salespeople. Then they don't know how to.
Right. Yeah, the great coders. They're not great marketers.
Yeah, we had a guy that passively looking at a job at one of our clients, and his resume didn't look that great, but he was making 100. I'll tell you, Jeff, he was making 160,000, and he was 11 years at his last company. That's all you need. That's all you need to know. He was 11 years at his company, and he was making 160, and he was currently working. So I'm like, you got to interview this person. And they didn't interview him because his resume didn't look good. And I said, the engineer doesn't know how to write a resume, and he's like 11 years in his company. So Jeff, I'm telling you, if you need a senior C# guy, like, let me know. I mean, it's just like, so then we'll have these candidates that. It's another challenge that we have sometimes is we'll have candidates that we think are great and they should get submitted, and we don't have anywhere to put them. Right. But it happens.
Yeah. It's always about making that balance and having both sides and connecting them at the same time.
Absolutely.
Well, where can people learn more about you and about PhillyTech online?
Yeah. So PhillyTech.co, PhillyTech.co is our website. And I am very big on LinkedIn. So I go by Michael C. Bertoni, B as in boy, Ertoni. I've got over 22,000 first connections on LinkedIn. And I'm really—
That's a few.
What's that?
I said that's a few.
It's a few. Yeah. I mean, I have been using LinkedIn.
That's really, really good.
I have been using LinkedIn as my primary database since 2004. I was a lion, if anybody remembers.
Really smart.
What a lion was. But yeah, that's where you find me on LinkedIn or at PhillyTech.co. And it's been great, Jeff. I really appreciate you doing this and setting this up.
It's been a really fun conversation. We'll make sure and link all of that in the show notes. So thank you, Michael, for being on the show.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks again, Michael, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and perspective on hiring in the SaaS world today. Super helpful. You can learn more about Michael at PhillyTech.co. And of course, connect with him on LinkedIn, make him even more of the most connected technologist. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at SaaSfuel.com. So while you're there, please subscribe and follow us. And everyone who subscribes this week gets an unbreakable coffee mug made out of adamantium. How about that? To remind you about being anti-fragile. So think about this week. Anti-fragile. Join us next time where our founder is Michael Maximoff, co-founder of Folderly. Folderly is a SaaS that keeps our emails out of spam so your message gets to your ideal clients and prospects. Our expert next week is also a founder, and it is Sam, CEO and co-founder of OneScreen.ai, the marketplace provider for buying and selling out-of-home advertising. So absolutely blow your mind. Science fiction meets our real world. So I will see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSFuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.